It's nice to have you guys back, and I'm loving everything I've heard from Void so far.
Awesome to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, it's. I know it's been a break, and everybody likes to hit on that and everything, but it for once it really felt like it. There was several points in this time that I looked up and I said, "Where did Minus the Bear go?"
Yeah, I mean that's that's the interesting thing. There's a lot of reasons for the large gap in time, but it's now that we're here, now that the record's actually out, it just feels kind of like normal again to me.
Right.
But yeah, 5-year gap is pretty darn big.
Especially when you guys, I mean, I love the last record too, and it's, one of those things where every record feels like it's been better than the last, which, a lot of bands, they don't get that. You don't get to have that, and you guys have been able to pull that off, so to leave on a high note, and not that you really left, but, it starts to feel like that. But then you come back roaring, and Voids is the album that I think all of us fans had hoped for. For whatever turmoil you had to go through to get here, it feels like it was worth it.
Yeah, having it almost felt like too much time. I mean, we kind of had some false starts on the record, and, or whatever was going to become Voids, and drummer issues and children. We all, three of us at the time when Infinity Overhead was coming out, had our first kids at about the same time, and so life changes, all that, and now it's just now I got a 5-year-old and he can talk and stuff, so I can leave.
That's a nice way of looking at it. Now that you can talk and stuff, I'm out. Peace. Have
I'm
yourself
out of
a
here.
great time.
Call me.
Yeah, right. So the band is, 16, 17 years old at this point. And
Yeah.
I guess for you coming up with the new themes and everything, with, the writing, I mean, I guess I read somewhere about, figuring out what you have to say at this point. What did it come down to?
Sure.
What did you have to say? What, when did that arrive, and what were those ideas?
The difference, I mean, the band started, and we were kind of, in 2001 when we began, it was kind of just a fun side project band, and we were like, let's write some songs about drinking. Let's write some songs about partying, and like have a fun side project band. And it kind of became this actual band pretty quick. And now, after writing about kind of the, life of freedom or travel and drinking and all this stuff, it's just, now after I have 2 kids and 40 years old, like all that stuff is not part of my worldview now.
Mm-hmm.
So this record, I just kind of looked at what I was angry about, like what I needed some processing help with. So we wrote a bit about, separating with our drummer, who was a really good friend of mine at the time, and that process. And I mean, a lot of it feels to me, at least, kind of like expressing those years of unknowns that we went through, where we didn't know if we were going to be a band or not, or how much longer this experiment would take us. And so, yeah, just kind of, I mean, there was a lot of, it was like, what am I if I'm not doing music, and what's my next move? And then, luckily the whole process started to work again once we had fresh meat.
I mean, there's one song on there that I'll point out with Tame Beasts, where you say, feels like the world is ending. And whether that was somewhat more personal or, a reflection of our current times and what's happening out there. I mean, it just made me think that, that there is so much, I guess, added weight on art right now because of everything that's happening in the world. Like, I see that you guys are helping out ACLU and Planned Parenthood, which is amazing and awesome. But, that's something an artist hasn't really been tasked with this much for a while. And did you feel that calling?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. The interesting point of fact about Tame Beast is Alex wrote the lyrics for that song and sang lead on it as well. Mm-hmm. Hard to tell because he sounds like me, so it's really not
true.
Easy. But yeah, I mean, I think that he's, we are all kind of responding to the way that things are now, like the uncertainty. And even though all these songs were finished before the election took place, there was that uncertainty, like here comes one path where we continue going toward a path of progress, however, slow or whatever path, or whatever, however long that takes, at least it's an arrow pointing towards progress. Mm-hmm. And then we had this other option, which is like a complete regression of everything that I've wanted to work for and whatnot for the past, for my whole life. So, and that tension, I think, appears pretty well, and Alex expressed it in that song a lot. And I think that song really has that tension between the, becoming like, holy like we're grown-ups now. The kind of gravity of what's going on is a lot weightier than when we were starting out.
As far as some of the other songs on here, I noticed a lot of fans in their comments are lining up behind Silver and Lighthouse, which you couldn't help notice are the two most, I guess, epic in scope on the record.
Yeah, I don't know. That's surprising to me. I'm always surprised because I think like, oh, this song and this song are going to be obviously the ones that people are attracted to. But Sliver one kind of surprised me, but but now that I hear it, it's like, okay, I get it. It sounds like Minus the Bear for sure. Yeah, and Lighthouse is kind of also very, I think, in our wheelhouse.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, though. It's like, it's not that everything on here sounds like Minus the Bear, but it's definitely a different version of what you guys had been known for in the past. With a lot of things you've been saying, the themes are pretty obvious, and the music as well. I mean, even coming from that very first single with Invisible, which, sounds like, I don't know, it's one of the most positive messages, I guess, that's out there, kind of, or at least that's the way I take it anyway, because it's, it's kind of hidden behind a problematic instance, but to all the cliches, stand up, be yourself, go for it.
Yeah. That's kind of what I'm trying to do now is just this. So, or like, now that I'm like basically an old man running around the country like an ass playing music, I'm like, okay, well, this is, I have to have kind of that sense, like a bit of a sense of humor at the irony of like just an old man singing to kids songs that he wrote in his house and stuff. And I don't know, I think that having a long break to think about it and come up with these new tunes, I don't know.
It's interesting because, age being on your mind a little bit, which happens a lot, especially in music and even more specifically in rock and roll, I suppose, because, when everything was birthed in this genre from youth, and all the fire is from youth, and to be a band as long as you guys have had, I'm a few years behind you, not far. I'm 35, but it'd feel like to me that it gets to a point where you've got to figure out how to find that fire and that connection. Because we know, we've had rock and roll now for a long time, and we know what age does to a certain amount of artists. And I will, again, compliment you and say that I don't hear that on Voids, but I'm not surprised that that's on your mind either.
Yeah, definitely. It's about the number, like 40, scary for me. Now I'm comfortable with it because now I'm going to be 41 this month, so it's all good. But it's the big thing is just it's like having a child now having two and watching the development, watching a human become a human in like real time, and being and just realizing that they're going to be a 40-year-old man and woman someday too, and it's less about growing old and more about like, God, what is it about? It's like, it's for me, it's about the, like kind of the acceleration, the feeling of acceleration that happens, like even from being in the band in 2001 to now, doesn't feel like, it still feels like we're still kind of starting out and working hard and trying to make it. And, this just time just seems so accelerated, since we started the band, and now having kids, and it's like, it's just like a check mark. Like now, if I didn't pay attention, I wouldn't even barely know that I was, halfway through my life at all, because It's just feels like yesterday I was in a van with these guys heading to somebody's house after a show to sleep on the floor. But now, now it's like, here we are talking to a dude that does radio stuff, and I have children and a house and a mortgage, and still trying to square that with like this youthful authenticity of rock and roll, and like, that real edge, and like saying something, and like, now we do have something to say something about with this horrible leader. And yeah, I mean, this record totally was one of those. It's like, okay, now what? Now at this age, how do we take all this time and all this uncertainty and wrap it up into something we can give to people?
There's something to be said. There was a line that I love and quote every now and then about it, that if you the whole thing about living in the moment, but they say if you're fully alive in the present, then you live forever. And if you don't have to worry about a lot of this stuff. And then I don't know, I guess time doesn't pass as quickly. Whether or not any of us can do that, it's a very hard thing to do. But I will say that, it sounds like this record is going to be a really nice snapshot for you guys in the whole timeline, especially as you even get older and hopefully continue music, because I don't see a reason why you guys won't have anything to say even at 45 and 50 and 55. Of course, I say that as a fan. So
that's awesome. Yeah, it's like how when you're 25, you have no idea how much like a 25-year-old you're gonna think when you're 40. So like I think about 55 now, and I'm like, that seems like an old man to me, but it won't when I'm there. I'm just gonna feel like a 25-year-old.
Right.
So
that's what I hear.
Yeah.
All right,
I'll just have a 15-year-old kid trying to kick my ass. All right.
Well, I appreciate the talk today. I really do, and I love Voids. So the congratulations and all that, and good luck on the tour with drummer number 3.
Hey man, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
It was a pleasure talking to you. Take care.
You too. Take care. Bye.